Organic hemp and natural ingredients on the market and are tested for quality, purity, and potency. They have a full range of items from health and wellness to beauty to pets. Call 725-205-9223. Visit online at zinworld.com or stop by their location at 9895 South Maryland Parkway and Silverado Ranch Parkway. Mention KSHP for 10% off in store or use code KSHP online for 15% off.
And gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Liberalism is back in style. Welcome to the evolution.
Hi, this is Pat Buchanan. I'm the author of Death of the West and a new bestseller, State of Emergency, The Third World Invasion and Conquest of America. And you're listening to the Doug Basham Show, the fastest rising progressive radio show in America. And he's also a friend of mine.
What if you knew Fox News was just lying to you? How could you watch when you know?
He was voted Variety Entertainer of the Year in the Excellence in the Arts Awards and is one of the highest Arbitron, now Nielsen-rated talk radio hosts in Las Vegas. He is also a refreshing voice of logic and reason. Live from the entertainment capital of the world, Doug Basham.
I know words. I have the best words.
I love the poorly educated.
Right under the toilet.
And good morning, my fellow wokes and Republican jokes. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Doug Basham, and welcome to the Doug Basham Show right here on KSHP in Las Vegas and on social media, and to a genuine demonstration of excellence in broadcasting. The website is DougBasham.com. Last name spelled B as in Bob, A-S-H-A-M as in Mary. DougBasham.com. My email, Doug@DougBasham.com. If you are new to the show, here's the deal. On my website, you will find links to every website associated with this show, in particular, links to all my social media sites, on 4 of which we both broadcast the show live and archive the shows. Now let me make it easy and boil it down to just one. On my website, click on the YouTube link. Once there, click on the link that says live, whereupon you can either watch the show live or view the archive shows. Also, if you would, click on the subscribe link. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks, if you would like to talk on the radio. As in our second half hour, he meant to say, that's 702-221-SAVE, as in save our democracy, which is our ultimate and only goal in each and every show we do. Lock him up. And because it's Friday, if you would like, I will give you pretty much the whole second half hour. If you haven't heard, Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein, the oldest member of the Senate and the longest-serving woman in the Senate, passed away last night in her home in D.C. at the age of 90. The one word that's being used to describe her is trailblazer. She was also the first female mayor of San Francisco, and she was a fierce vocal advocate of gun control. And she did her job right up until her final day. She showed up at the Senate the day of her death and voted to keep her country up and running. California Governor Gavin Newsom will now appoint her replacement. And just to show you how vile, how nasty, and how repulsive some members on the right are, here's what right-wing propaganda hate media talk radio host Brendan Dilley tweeted, quote, Dianne Feinstein spent her entire career auctioning off power to the Chinese Communist Party. She made hundreds of millions of dollars selling out her constituents in America. Today she's dead. Good riddance. End quote. And then there's Juanita Broderick, the harpy fishwife and shrew who accused Bill Clinton of rape, a charge, I might add, that even her husband doubted. This is what Broderick tweeted, quote, Dianne Feinstein has passed away, but she's still voting for Joe Biden, end quote. Nice, Juanita, exploiting someone's death to further perpetuate Donald Trump's big stolen rigged election lie in order to destroy our democracy. What is wrong with you? A website called News That Matters tweeted, quote, Senator Feinstein's death means that she will likely only serve a few more terms, end quote. Pro-life party, folks, pro-life party. Oh, not to mention the party that likes to claim an exclusivity on Christianity, to which I would say not even hardly. And finally, one Twitter user whose handle is Serenity Now tweeted, quote, If I see anyone acting like an effing ghoul about Dianne Feinstein, you too are dead to me. I mean, feel free to be a sociopathic jackass if that's what gets you off. Just remember that normal people can also see you. End quote. And amen, Serenity Now, and rest in peace, Dianne Feinstein. Next, pursuant to a question I asked yesterday, I asked if anyone remembered which guest appeared on my old show on another station more times than any other. And the correct answer was, as you heard in the intro, Pat Buchanan. For some reason I still can't figure out, Pat and I developed some sort of radio relationship and bond, and he appeared on my show a record 7 times. I had the overwhelming majority of my guests appear just once, every once in a blue moon, twice. But Pat was the greatest guest you could ask for. He knows literally everything about Washington, D.C., and he could talk on any subject. In any event, I also said I would bring a $100 bill to the station today, and the winner could pick it up at their convenience. And being a man of my word, I brought one such bill, and JD was our winner. Now, this isn't just a normal $100 bill. This is a very special bill, and one that in my mind is worth much more than $100. And here's what's special about this and what I highly recommend be done with it. I suggest you just take this bill and leave it laying around somewhere. Then watch, because someone's going to see it, and of course they're going to pick it up while simultaneously feeling thankful for their good fortune. However, when they pick up the bill and examine it closely, on the back side of the bill you can see it clearly says in all capital letters, quote, Trump lost, LOL, end quote. Gotcha, JD. And I got to be honest, I kind of knew and predicted that if anyone was going to remember who that guest was, it would be JD. Why? Because JD and I go back. I mean, we go way back. And you might find it incongruous to learn that while JD and I often fight on the air, sometimes like cats and dogs, off the air, we converse quite civilly, sometimes for minutes. And if I know him as well as I think I do, I'm expecting a gracious call from him at some point today, perhaps even the show, accompanied by a rather sheepish admission that will go something like this. Yeah, you got me, you jerk. Next up, as we face a government shutdown on Saturday at midnight, or at least 1 minute after midnight, the QOP was hard at work with their embarrassing and bogus impeachment inquiry, because that's what the American people are most concerned about. And they can do that because their brain-dead MAGA base doesn't care if they're harmed by the shutdown. They don't give a continental damn about policy or governing in general. Owning the libs and achieving revenge against them is all that matters. But the reality is this quest for vengeance is likely to be as futile as all other QOP bogus witch hunts. Between the Wednesday debate and the Ethics Committee hearing yesterday, it is clear the Republican Party isn't sending us their best. It was almost like Republicans on the Ethics Committee watched the hapless and frankly pointless debate on Wednesday and said collectively, hold our beer. And this is not hyperbolic at all, but it got to the point Democrats just made fools out of their colleagues on the Ethics Committee. And what have I been saying since we started back on the air 2 months ago on Monday? That the QOP cannot defend Donald Trump, so they have to try and make legitimate president and non-criminal defendant Joe Biden look as bad as Trump. Hence, their months-long investigation into Hunter Biden, I almost said Hunter, whatever it was, into Hunter Biden. It would have been Hunter Buden. I don't know. It's a good thing I didn't finish it. I had no finish. Let me rewind that and start that again. Hence, their months-long investigation into Hunter Biden and their flailing and embarrassing attempts to tie the elder Biden to his son. And yesterday was no different. And in fact, if possible, it was worse. The House Ethics Committee, chaired by James Comer, held their first impeachment inquiry hearing yesterday, and they summoned 3 witnesses to testify on their behalf. First, George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley, who sold his soul to the right-wing propaganda hate media long ago, a.k.a. Fox Noise. Forensic accountant Bruce Dubinsky, and Eileen O'Connor, a former assistant attorney general at the Justice Department's tax division. Let's start with the 2 I personally have never heard of before yesterday. First, forensic accountant Bruce Dubinsky.
Let me be clear. I am not prejudging the facts that have emerged to date with regard to the Biden family and associates businesses and the money they received that had its origins from foreign sources. I am not here today to even suggest that there was corruption, fraud, or any wrongdoing. In my opinion, more information needs to be gathered and assessed before I would make such an assessment.
That's fair, but hardly a blockbuster smoking gun witness, wouldn't you agree? Now, I didn't find any sound clips from Eileen O'Connor, again, a former assistant attorney general at the Justice Department's tax division. And I sure as hell wasn't going to listen to the entire 6-hour farce to find some. But I do have Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy's questioning of Miss O'Connor. It wasn't pretty.
Now, let me turn to another topic here. Ms. O'Connor, here I have a poster of an entry from your professional LinkedIn account. There's your picture, and it says Law Office of Eileen J. O'Connor. We printed here what you posted roughly 1 week ago. It says, quote, the Biden administration is promoting and enabling the invasion. That's what your post says, right?
Yes, it does.
And it further goes on to say, if this doesn't stop quickly, then the entire USA will be invaded with millions of military-aged men from many different countries who are ready to cause total havoc while getting paid $2,200 a month in welfare to do so.
Did I write that?
You reposted it.
Real cute. Anyone who has ever had or has their own social media site knows full well you don't repost something you vehemently disagree with unless you accompany it with text that says you disagree with it. Otherwise, it is assumed in social media world you agree with it. Dig? So this is a kind of lie without really coming out and saying the lie. Again, real cute. The exchange continued, and as it does, there's overspeak. But it seems to me, and you can tell me if you agree or you heard something else, but it sounded to me like she defended her invasion comment by saying something about the demolition of the United States of America. See if that's what you hear.
Did I write that?
You reposted it, and it says it is an engineered death spiral. Now, let me show you another posting that you put up on your professional LinkedIn account.
May I respond? If there is an
you can respond when I'm done. When I'm done with my question,
or the deliberate demolition of the United States of America.
Ma'am, this is another posting from your professional LinkedIn account. This says announcing Michigan telethon to raise funds for 16 alternate electors who crooked Dana Nessel wants to jail. Now, ma'am, that's your professional LinkedIn account, right?
It is.
Now, let me turn to you, Mr. Turley.
So she posted a fundraiser for the Michigan fake electors who broke the law and were trying to overturn a free and fair election. And she calls the Michigan Attorney General crooked for trying to achieve justice. This broad's not just an unbiased quote-unquote witness. She's part of Trump's brain-dead mega cult base. She's a Trumper, for God's sake. Holy zero credibility, Batman. Which brings us to the one witness we have all heard about, Jonathan Turley. Again, George Washington University law professor, who, as I mentioned a moment ago, sold his soul to the right-wing propaganda hate media a long time ago. And let me show you what I mean by that. We have all heard Trump's damning phone call to Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. You know, the one Trump keeps lying and keeps saying was a perfect phone call. I have some more breaking news from yesterday. Rolling Stone reported just yesterday that Trump asked his attorneys last year to suppress what he has lied and called his perfect phone call from his upcoming RICO mob boss trial. As I have said all along, and I still contend, Trump has known he was lying regarding his professed perfect phone call from the moment he first told that lie.
What's going on in this country is, and by the way, wants to indict me for a perfect phone call. This was even better than my perfect call with Ukraine. Remember that call? That was a perfect call. This one's better. This one is more perfect. I challenged the election in Georgia, which I have every right to do, which I was right about, frankly. And they want to indict me because I challenged the election.
It is truly amazing, the number of lies this guy can tell in such a short time period. No, the call wasn't perfect, or you wouldn't have tried to have it scrubbed from your trial. Secondly, pressuring a Secretary of State to just say he recalculated the votes after they'd already been recounted several times, that's not challenging an election. That is trying to steal an election. And organizing a conspiracy of illegal fake electors, that's also not challenging an election. And this is where Jonathan Turley completely shredded his last vestige of his credibility. On Fox News, Turley tried to make the case that all Trump was asking for was a recount. Yeah, Jonathan, sure thing.
It is a weaponization of the criminal justice system, in my view. That call has been widely misrepresented, in my view. In the call, President Trump at the time said you only need to find around 11,000 votes. And that has been taken as an invitation for fraud. There is, of course, a more obvious explanation, and that is the Georgia officials were saying that further state recounts might not be necessary. And it would be natural for Trump to say, look, you only need to find 11,000 to turn the outcome of this election. So I don't need that many votes. Thus, a state recount is justified.
I think this is criminalizing the challenging of elections. Basically, you have a Democratic prosecutor saying, how dare you challenge a Democratic victory? But in Donald Trump's case, he insists that he does believe that Georgia could have been flipped with a recount. And the way that she portrayed that phone call to Raffensperger, I think, is really evidence of the bias and unfairness of aspects of this indictment. You know, it makes perfect sense when you're challenging an election to say, you know, I only need around 11,000 votes. So if you do a statewide review, that's not a lot in a state like Georgia. That's not criminal. That's making a case for a recount.
Wow. Just wow. Did you hear what he said? Oh, it's a Democratic prosecutor saying you have no right to challenge an election. No, Jonathan, long before that, it was a Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger to be specific, who told him, no, your data is wrong. We have done recounts and your sorry ass lost. But Turley conveniently skipped that part. Conveniently. He completely ignored the recounts that had already been done. He completely ignored the illegal fake elector scheme. And he's completely ignoring the phone call himself. He says Trump was, just simply asking for a recount.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. There's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated. I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
Boom. And again, that was a Republican Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. So you heard Trump say, nothing wrong with just saying you recalculated. I need these votes. Give me a break. Did that sound like a simple request for a recount? Or, as Turley has also said, he was just saying that that's what he would have needed to win. No, Turley's lying. I don't know whether or not he knows he's lying, but he is lying. And let us never forget the price that has to be paid in the era and era of Trump. Death threats against Brad Raffensperger and his family, and phone calls with nasty, vile sexual innuendos to his wife. Real classy people there, Trumpers, real classy. Now, before we took that detour, we heard Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy take on Eileen O'Connor. Now he takes on Jonathan Turley, who had already said this in his opening statement.
The shortening intervals between impeachments should be a cause of concern and circumspection for all the members on both sides. And I want to emphasize what it is that we're here today for. This is a question of an impeachment inquiry. It is not a vote on articles of impeachment. In fact, I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. That is something that an inquiry has to establish.
Now we hear Congressman Krishnamurthy questioning Turley. And this kind of shocked me. Krishnamurthy is generally a pretty soft-spoken guy, but I'll tell you, he amped up for Jonathan Turley. Maybe that reflects Democrats' more than justified frustration and anger with the QOP. Because everybody in Congress, including those QOP Ethics Committee members, they all know this is a verdict in search of a crime. But when you hitch your wagon to a psychopath and he tells you to jump, you say, how low?
Professor Turley, in 2006, you wrote an op-ed in The Guardian entitled, quote, "Stop Persecuting Polygamists." There, you liken polygamists to, quote, persecuted minorities, and you said polygamy is, quote, a practice with deep and good faith religious meaning. Isn't that what you said?
I represented the sister wives family in challenging a polygamy prosecution.
The answer is yes. You've been crusading for legalizing polygamy for years. In fact, in an op-ed in the USA Today, you said that a Utah polygamist named Tom Green, who was also convicted of pedophilia for raping his 13-year-old stepdaughter, should not have been charged with polygamy. Now, Mr. Chairman, we're counting...
Because that's not, can I respond? Because it's not entirely accurate. I actually criticized him. What I was dealing with was the constitutionality of what is called morals legislation. And I admit I'm pretty libertarian.
Was Tom Green convicted of pedophilia and rape?
Government
was he convicted of pedophilia and rape? The answer is yes. Mr. Chairman, we're counting down the hours until a government shutdown, and here we have a hearing where we have one witness who defended a polygamist who was convicted of pedophilia and rape, and we have another witness with LinkedIn accounts with extreme views posted. I think that unfortunately, this speaks to the credibility of the witnesses and the credibility of this impeachment inquiry. I yield back.
And indeed it does. At one point, the ever-adorable AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, addressed and questioned all three witnesses the Republicans had brought in, plus the Democrats' one witness. And she did what she has become quite proficient at doing. She asked them all one simple question, and smart girl that she is, she asked a question to which she already knew the answer.
Mr. Turley, I have a simple question for you. In your testimony today, are you presenting any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
No, I'm not.
No, you are not. Ms. O'Connor, you are the second Republican witness here today. Have you, in your testimony, presented any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
I have not.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Dubinsky, as the third and final Republican witness in this hearing, have you, in your testimony, presented any firsthand witness account of crimes committed by the President of the United States?
I have not.
And Professor Gerhardt, given that you are the minority witness, I assume the same, correct?
I am not a fact witness, correct.
Thank you. And to clarify, two individuals presented today who do have firsthand accounts surrounding the progeny of these allegations are being blocked from testifying by the Republican majority.
Boom. At another point, AOC caught the QOP members of the committee flat out lying and fabricating. And the QOP member to whom she's referring is Byron Donalds, who the MAGA right thinks is a rising star. He's nothing but an insufferable dick and douchebag.
Earlier today, one of our colleagues, a gentleman from Florida, presented up on this screen something that appeared to be a screenshot of a text message containing or insinuating an explosive allegation. That screenshot of what appeared to be a text message was a fabricated image. It was a fabricated image. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it was the staff of the committee, but it was not the actual direct screenshot from that phone. And in fact, I would like to submit to the committee the actual full context from the Ziegler affidavit number 1, exhibit 402, of the full text of that exchange. Do I have permission from the chair?
Okay.
Importantly, what was brought out from that fabricated image excluded critical context that changed the underlying meaning and allegation that was presented up on that screen by this committee and by members of this committee.
I'm telling you, today's MAGA Republicans, they are as filthy and dirty as they come. Filthy. And that is the inevitability when you align yourself with and start to emulate the dirtiest and filthiest liar, conman, and grifter this nation has ever seen, perhaps even that history has ever seen. I thought the fieriest and feistiest comment I heard in this hearing came from Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett from Texas. I'm telling you, this gal's a pistol, and she don't mince no words.
Because honestly, if they would continue to say if or Hunter and we were playing a drinking game, I would be drunk by now. Because I promise you, they have not talked about the subject of this, which would be the president. But let me tell you something that was so disturbing as I walked in to this chamber today. As I prepared, I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me.
I'm sorry. Every time I played this last night when I was editing it, I laughed every single time I heard it. I told you she was a pistol who doesn't mince words. And full disclosure, I am absolutely head over heels in love with this one. She doesn't just bring the fire, she is the fire. And when you have an honest-to-goodness patriot who loves this country and went into politics for all the right reasons, which Jasmine did, who also happens to be drop-dead gorgeous, it just doesn't get any better than that. And Ms. Crockett wasn't finished.
These are our national secrets. Looks like in the shitter to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on the stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
Oh, jeez. Go on. Tell me you don't love this gal as much as I do. I dare you. Now, just to be fair, I'd like you to hear from a gentleman who brought the fire, the Democratic congressman from Florida, Jared Moskowitz. And in fact, my gal Jasmine Crockett, and what a great name for someone from Texas, Crockett. She tweeted this, quote, "So, today was a day. GOP Oversight Committee thought they could convince the American people that impeaching our innocent president is some sort of priority with 48 hours left until the federal government shuts down. Oversight Dems like me and Representative Moskowitz, we came ready." End quote. And here's the aforementioned Jared Moskowitz. He is a hoot. And he brings up just an incredible and excellent point. In fact, ironically, the same point I brought up last week. You see what I did there? Huh? You see what I did there? When I told you that Marjorie Trader Trash 8 Toes Green filed articles of impeachment against Joe Biden before he had been in office 24 hours. Then he makes the other point I've made on several occasions, namely that the QOP cannot defend or save Donald Trump, so they have to try and make Joe Biden look as bad as they know Trump is. Here's Jared Moskowitz.
So look, we're all appearing now in the world's worst acted TV drama, right? It's been picked up for a second season, the Real House Republicans of Oversight. Perhaps the material's so bad due to the writer's strike. How many Republicans, Freedom Caucus members, part of the Chaos Caucus, have said there's no evidence to impeach Joe Biden? And again, of course, we know it's not about the evidence. Why? Here's a list of all of the articles of impeachment that have been filed by my colleagues, some that are on this committee. When was the first article filed? It was filed in January of 21, 2 weeks after January 6th. So before we had a single hearing, before they went through this myriad of phishing, they were filing articles of impeachment. Professor Turley, you said this doesn't rise to the level of impeachment, and you said they shouldn't prejudge. Well, here's a list right here of every single member, many on this committee, prejudging. They're filing articles of impeachment, COVID, Afghanistan, Hunter Biden, and they're all one-upping each other in the Donald Trump Friend Olympics, trying to get invited to the sleepover at Mar-a-Lago. Oh, I filed articles of impeachment against Merrick Garland. No, I filed articles of impeachment against Kamala Harris. Okay? It is ridiculous. But this is what this is about. Let me show you. It's a simple board, right? So all other presidents in the United States, 50% of the impeachments. Donald Trump, the other 50. Donald Trump has half of the impeachments in American history. But you know what? He's got 100% of the indictments. 100% of all indictments, 0 for the other presidents. Listen, let me do it another way. I want to channel my inner Tim Russert. So let me go to the board, right? And I don't have Florida. But Donald Trump, impeachments. Oh, how many impeachments? We got 2 there. How many indictments? We got 4. How many for Biden? 0. Donald Trump is right. He's sick of winning. He's just winning, running away with it. And that's why we're here. We're here because of math. That's what this is about. They can't save Donald Trump. They can't take away the 2 impeachments and the 4 indictments, but they can try to put some numbers on the board for Joe Biden. But the problem is when you sling mud, you got to have mud. And they just don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. So look, we get it. We know why we're here. So when are you going to have the vote on impeachment, Mr. Chairman? What are you scared of? Call the vote. Come on. If you all think there's so much evidence, we're here. Call the vote on impeachment. Impeach him right now. I dare you.
Boom. Jared Moskowitz bringing the fire. I told you earlier in the show that Democrats literally made fools out of their Republican colleagues on the Ethics Committee. It got to the point where they were just mocking them. They were actually having fun with it. And I want you to hear this great line. It comes to us from Democratic Congresswoman from New Mexico, Melanie Stansbury, who I got to admit I'd never heard of until yesterday. But now I love her too, as I'm sure you will as well.
And I want to say thank you to Mr. Donald Trump for calling this hearing today. We see the long arm, but little hands of Mr. Donald Trump, whose fingerprints are all over this hearing and this sham impeachment.
Excellent, Melanie Stansbury. Donald Trump's hand, what would she say? The long arm and little hands of Donald Trump. That was beautiful. 221-7283 is our caller number here at the station, folks. If you'd like to chat on this Friday, it's your last chance before we head into the weekend. That's 702-221-SAVE. Who are we going to start with, Justin? I know, I have so many. You got to comb through them now.
Please come home, 'cause I miss you, Gary.
Gary, you're first. Thanks for calling.
You know what?
What?
There must be some kind of way out of here. There's too much confusion. Hey, I asked Justin to put on JD if he calls or anybody. I was going to reserve this time for someone. You know, I'm just a gentleman.
This is
I'm
the
not a
talk show,
scholar.
not Congress. You don't have to reserve time for someone.
But I wanted to tell you, I was surprised to hear Pat Buchanan. But then when I think about it, you know, the old saying, with politics makes strange bedfellows.
That's true.
I always liked him. Even when I was a Democrat, I liked the John McLaughlin report. He was really good. He could laugh, and he could mix it up with the best of them. And I considered him a blue-collar, what do you call it, conservative in a way, because there's something about the guy that I appreciated. I think he screwed himself up when he dressed like an outlaw.
Well, Gary,
when he was running for president.
Gary,
Yes.
you were a listener back then. Did you hear any of those interviews I did with Pat?
I can't believe it. The show before the last, because you were taken off the air a couple of times, or you just resigned. I forgot which.
I have
the show
been.
before.
I wear that with a badge of honor. Yes, I have been kicked off more than one station.
Hey, I just want to say one thing. I know a lot of people are going to laugh at me and curse me because I talk too long. Is there any way that, just for instance, hypothetically, that two of these Republicans they decide that they're going to announce that why wait for primaries and this and that? You know, just for instance, one of them decide who's going to be the president, who's going to be the vice president, and announce it now as a team. You know, before all this primary stuff, they have a better edge than maybe catch up to President Trump, because people would say, hey, that's interesting. See, Nikki Haley's going to be the vice president, and maybe someone else is going to be the president, and they don't need a debate no more. Here's your choice, you know?
You know something, Gary? I think
yes.
that's a heck of a great idea. Surprisingly, considering the source, but I think it's a great idea. Because they certainly need something. Because not one of those seven squishes did themselves a favor on Wednesday night in that debate.
All right. Well, sometimes I stumble upon something interesting.
Hey, every now and then, even a blind squirrel finds a nut.
All right, I can take these left-handed compliments. You have a good weekend. Let someone else have a chance.
Hey, you do the same, Gary. Always a pleasure to hear from you. You take care. 221-7283 is the call-in number. Area code 702-221-SAVE. Justin, who's next?
And I said, you can't see the forest for the tree. You can't see the honey for the bee. If it was a snake, it would have bitten you. I'm giving up on getting you. You can't see the forest for the tree. I was running.
And now we speak to a man who definitely can see the forest for the trees, primarily because he is the forest. Forrest, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug. I was listening to one of the earlier comments that you were playing.
Uh-huh.
And it was from a guy who was questioning everything that was happening in Georgia and thought that Trump was on the legitimate path in Georgia and on. So what these people are doing is they're obviously not looking at MSNBC or CNN or any of the, they're just following Fox. And so I think it's wonderful that everything's going to be televised in the Georgia trial.
Yes.
And the first two are coming up in a few weeks, I believe. And these people who have never actually watched what's going on in a trial involving Trump are going to be able to see it on TV. And I think that will be a real awakening, not for all of them,
no,
but for many of them that will see Trump, or his friends up front and personal, and I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree completely. It'll be fun, that's for sure. And not only that, with these two trials coming up soon, Cheesebro and Sidney Powell's, we're going to get to see a lot of the prosecution's defense. I should say offense against Trump.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Yes, we are.
So looking forward to it.
Have a good day, Dr.
Hey, you do the same, Forrest. Always a pleasure. 221-7283 is our call-in number here at the station, folks. That's 702-221-SAVE. Folks, if you will recall something I said earlier this week regarding the Robert Menendez indictment, I suggested Democrats in Congress who were so quick to call for Menendez's resignation, I suggested they start their comments with 4 words. Yes, he should go, but then pivot to Donald Trump and his myriad crimes. Well, at yesterday's hearing, Democratic Congressman Jerry Connolly from Virginia kind of did just that, and with a twist. I got to tell you, I am so proud.
I heard again, I think it was Professor Turley talking about, because he's not prejudging, of course, but he's just suggesting that maybe we want to look into criminal activity like obstruction, fraud, and abuse of power. So let's take fraud. So shouldn't we be concerned that a New York judge just found President Biden's organization committed fraud every year for the last 10 or 15 years, and that under the Martin Law in New York, that Biden organization is now subject to dismemberment and dismantlement because of the fraudulent activity? Shouldn't that be of concern to us?
That should be of concern with respect to Mr. Trump.
Mr. Trump again. And in this case, we're not speculating. A judge actually made that ruling?
Yes, sir.
Should we be concerned about the personal? While we're at it, since we're loading on, shouldn't we be concerned about the personal behavior of a president? For example, President Biden being found guilty of sexual assault and defamation associated with that activity, again in a civil court, in this case in New York?
We should be concerned as it relates to Mr. Trump, yes.
With Mr. Trump again. I just think that one of the reasons we're here is because somebody has been indicted in 4 different locales with, I think, 91 actual counts, and has been found guilty in 2 civil proceedings, one involving sexual behavior and one on actual corporate fraudulent activity. And we don't want to talk about any of that. We want to speculate about discredited testimony from discredited witnesses.
Boom. Was that not kind of a work of art? Jerry Connolly is a political Picasso, if you will. 221-7283 is the caller number, folks, if you would like to chat. If you've got something you just need to get off your chest before you head into the weekend, don't carry it all weekend. Get it off your chest right here on the Doug Basham Actual Live Morning Radio Show. 221-7283 is the number, area code 702-221-SAVE. Now, getting back to the inquiry, there were even those at Fox Noise who were completely underwhelmed. Here's Neil Cavuto.
I don't know what was achieved over these last 6+ hours. Where there's smoke today, we just got a lot more smoke. When you begin to trumpet what you have as the beginning of an explosive inquiry into the President of the United States to potentially remove him from office, you would think you would bring your A game.
221-7283 is the caller number. Have I mentioned that? Did you write it down? 702-221-7283, 221-SAVE. At one point, even sloppy Steve Bannon expressed his disappointment with this farce. Not that he thinks it's a farce. He's a distinguished member of the traitorous right-wing propaganda hate media, and as such, has to keep pretending this is a serious inquiry that will lead to an actual impeachment. But he's still free to comment on how individual hearings go.
We have to have a standard of how serious this is. And I haven't been able to follow the entire thing. But when one of the professors there, it gives the opening dialogue, and he's got some nice things he's laying out, and he's impeachable. And then Raskin, right on his cross, gets, and I think I heard this correctly. Well, have you seen any impeachable offenses? No. Is this worse than Trump on January 6th? No. That's maybe not a witness I call initially to lay out the case. Maybe my staff should have gone through and asked questions like that in making sure in the traditional preparation of the witnesses. And if that was the professor's thought and that's what he believes, maybe we sit around a conference table and say, hey, when we have on the whiteboard that professor's name, why don't we put him on the maybe category? Maybe we bring him in a couple weeks. Maybe we don't start with him.
Sloppy Steve Bannon is nothing but another bottom feeder like Matt Jailbait Gates. He's doing everything he can to help Trump break out of jail so that if he's successful in stealing next year's election, Sloppy Steve is hoping for a seat at the dictator's head table. 221-7283 is the number. Who's next, Justin? And calling all the way from a place I said earlier was a great place, Texas. Sarah, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Oh, hello. Yeah, I love that their Republicans are airing out everything they have on Biden. I think it really is good for America to see that they have nothing. And it was a really, even Fox, everybody was just stunned. At the Nothing Burger yesterday. I was very proud of Jasmine Crockett.
Oh, I love her. I love her.
Oh my God. I love her so much.
Oh, I want to have her babies. Or maybe vice versa. No, I absolutely love her. She is just fire. Just fire.
Yeah, she's a lawyer, civil rights lawyer.
I know. I did a little.
Proud to be.
Yeah, I did a little reading on her yesterday.
Yeah, she makes me proud to be from Texas. I know that people think Texans are dumb and backwards, but we're not.
You know, I hate to tell you this, but in my entertaining career, when I was doing my magic show, I performed in places in Texas that even lifelong Texans have never heard of, because that's how big Texas is. I would say that the crowds in Texas were as good as any crowds I ever had the good fortune to perform in front of.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you know, the most public people that represent us are Abbott and Cruz, and, you know, but we're not like them. We're not like them. We're much smarter than them.
Well, and you know, they're not even like them when you take them away from politics and stick them in an arena watching a magic show.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
But then you put them in Congress and they're complete douchebags. So I hear you. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but no, I mean, thanks for airing out the nothing burger from yesterday. I'm scared. It's a very, very sad day about, you know, Dianne Feinstein, a leader for women in politics, obviously. But I think that it's good that the Republicans are getting a chance to show their hand as to Biden, so that there's no conspiracy theories, there's no nothing. They don't have anything on him.
No.
And now they're wasting time while the government's going to shut down on Monday. My brother works for NASA. He's not going to get a paycheck, but he's going to still have to work.
Wow.
Because he's working on experiments for cancer and all that. You know, but, you know, people don't care. You know, they don't care. They just want to have these stupid hearings.
Yeah, I know. It's shameful. It's shameful, and it is shameless. And it is the inevitability when you hitch your wagon to the most shameless, immoral person who has ever risen to high office.
Yep. Well, thanks for my theme song, and thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for calling, Sarah. Always a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, Doug.
Thank you. 221-7283 is the number. Fernando, you're next. Thanks for calling.
Hey, Doug. Yeah, good show, good topics. Full disclosure, I was a Republican in the 80s. I was a Democrat in...
I don't know if you ever... Fernando, did you ever tell me that back on the old show when you used to call in? I don't think I knew that, did I?
No, I never disclosed it, but...
Oh, okay.
In the 80s, I was Republican, 90s Democrat. I switched over to independent, okay?
Right.
And recently, I just registered for the No Labels Party, because we're tired of this back and forth, the same old thing, pointing fingers, blaming this, blaming them, this and that, and we're tired of it.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Fernando, but I would say that one political party that's pointing fingers has a right to do so. Democrats are trying to keep the government open. Republicans only care about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and shutting the government down. So
I won't be voting for Trump or Biden, neither.
Well, I understand, but of the two, I mean, if you vote for anyone else, you're kind of throwing your vote away. Of the two, there's only one choice if you like democracy.
I disagree with throwing my vote away. I disagree with that. But anyway, have a great weekend and take care of yourself.
Hey, I appreciate it, Fernando. You take care, too. Wow, I didn't know that. Fernando used to call me on the other show back on another station, and as he said, he never disclosed that he used to be a Republican. As far as being sick of both parties and finger pointing, again, who's doing the finger pointing? At least, who's doing it justifiably? When Democrats are pointing the finger at Republicans for being useless and incapable of governing, yeah, that's finger pointing, but it's justified. When Republicans point the fingers, oh, Joe Biden crime family, that's just BS. So finger pointing isn't necessarily a bad thing if what you're pointing the finger at is right. Anyhow, folks, I got to run. The music's almost up. I appreciate you listening and calling. We'll do it all over again next week, starting on Monday, hopefully with you. Until then, take care.
Hi, I'm Coach Harvey Hyde, and every Thursday night at 6:05 p.m., we have our college football report show, which means we talk college football